Hi everyone, I'm Timothy Von Rieden, better known as vonnart Online, and welcome to this weekly Wednesday live stream. I'm joined by my partner in crime, Josh, better known as Schwa. And if you have any comments or questions during the stream, just put @vonnart, and Josh will help moderate the stream and we'll answer the questions to the best of our ability. I am going to be coloring one of my pencil drawings today, and this is my character Nate. And I've kind of caught the coloring bug the last couple streams, and I'm just gonna keep it going because I notice a lot of you are interested in this, and I think seeing different ways of coloring different subject matter might be important. And honestly, I don't really have a lot of this content pre-recorded on my YouTube, so I think it might be helpful for people watching this later on. And it's really fun for me right now. I've been really enjoying coloring in Photoshop again, so I'm gonna just run with what my intuition is telling me, and that's why we're doing this. So if you have any comments on the coloring process or just have any questions for us, feel free to ask. And honestly, these streams are kind of meant for you to work and paint and draw alongside me, so don't feel pressured to actually watch intently the whole time. I am definitely encouraging you to work alongside the stream, and we'll just have a conversation and keep it going that way. So we're kind of hoping this motivates you to stay focused on whatever projects you have. But anyways, this is my character Nate, and I'll really quickly, as I was looking for color palettes to use for today, I stumbled upon my old art of Nate, and I thought some of you might be interested to see how he's kind of progressed over the years. So I'm gonna full screen this. Now, mind you, this is when I was 19 and I was first learning how to do Photoshop. And a lot of what I learned how to do was basically creating a line art with a black solid circle brush. And then I would go in and basically try to paint it. But since I was very new with Photoshop at this time, I didn't really understand, and to be honest, I didn't really understand color that well at the time. I didn't understand how to use contrast or how to use value. And this was the result of me trying to create this edgy criminal character. Clearly, I thought tennis shoes were edgy at that time. I don't know what type of brand I was trying to rip off. I don't know if this is a Reebok Adidas ripoff and combining the two.
Kind of looks a little like Puma with the
stripes. It is Puma.
Yeah.
That's what I was ripping off. Ooh, when I look at this is just very cringy, and especially with a dog tag, we'll just move on. So then, the problem I had when I was learning Photoshop, which I'm sure many of you have too, is when you're learning Photoshop, you learn new things all the time and you want to implement that into your work. So it might not seem all that obvious at first when you look at 1 to 2, but in 2, I learned overlay and I learned how secondary colors like purple and red and blue can add more interest to skin tones. Mind you, this is still garbage and it's hot as hell, but it's something where I learned how to progress the way I color, or at least the way I think about color. But obviously not much of a jump because this was literally probably 2 months in between. I had this really bad habit of redrawing my characters every single time I would learn something new in Photoshop, and I'm like, well, I gotta redo it. I know I can do it better. But the third time I'm actually kind of proud of because there's more of a significant jump. The third Nate that I drew, if you look at even the way I'm detailing and I'm adding smaller effects, there's definitely a better execution of not having it look so airbrushed and not having random color splotches everywhere. I don't know what's going on in this jacket. The only way the wrinkles read as wrinkles is because of the line art. The coloring underneath is very sloppy and just there. But in this one, I'm coloring with the wrinkles and with the line art, and the forms of the folds make way more sense. Now, I was actually pretty proud. I redrew all my characters in this type of method, and I actually really liked how I did that. And I remember thinking I could never be better than this. This was the peak of my quality that I could create in characters.
Fem says that furry fur hoodie though. Feathery fur hoodie.
I mean, I did kind of keep that. We'll get to what happened to Nate.
I like his boots in this one though.
Yes, this is where I started to learn
weird spin of cowboy boots and motorcycle. Yeah.
I definitely learned to implement more of my fashion taste into the character. I admittedly was worried that it would come across too feminine, or I would kind of out myself as a gay person back then for having a really deep interest in fashion. But I kind of was able at 21 or whenever I did this drawing to just let that go and have characters that have a little bit more glam to them, if I want to call it that. And yeah, like the boots, I really liked. If you guys ever watch Rocky Horror Picture Show, the butler, he has these chap boots. I don't know what they're called specifically, but they have this. They like go under the sole of the boot part, or like where the little gap here is. So I wanted to kind of replicate that, and I guess this was the results. But if you really look at this, what the hell is this white garment? Why would you cover your boots with this weird patchy white garment? I guess aesthetics, but
it's aesthetic, yeah.
I mean, it's a specific kind of aesthetic that I'm not willing to return to. So anyways, I didn't really touch drawing my characters again for probably like 2 years, and then this is where this one came out of. Now, the whole idea with where I was at this point in my life was to not do any line art, because with the previous ones, I definitely I constructed a line art and I would paint under it. But with this one, I just went straight into color, and I liked the roughness of it. I liked seeing some of the brush strokes. So this was like a weird area in my learning of Photoshop, because I feel like I was also tackling how I wanted my art to be presented, where it wasn't fully cleaned and crisp everywhere. I like that it was a little rough. And I watched this movie called Transamerica, and the boy that's in it, it's actually Kevin Zegers, who played the kid with Air Bud back in the day. But watching that film, I was so intrigued, because in my mind I was like, I'm watching who I picture Nate being on screen. So I kind of picked up the hair that the kid in that movie had, and I just kind of adopted it to him. So that's why the haircut changed here. And I kind of thought, you know what, if he's supposed to be like this criminal type, I don't think he is going to be this like clean, well-constructed character. So I did want to make him a little grungier, a little bit dirty. And my understanding of how to do that, I think, was a little better. Now, my last interpretation of him, and also you can see like the boots are finally making a little more sense. But then I add weird hip accessories, because as you'll notice with all my characters, I love hip accessories for some reason, and I like an overabundance of hip accessories. I really like a heavy hip in terms of belts, and I'm sure it has Final Fantasy influence written all over it, but you'll see that with all my characters.
I like his jacket there too. I don't think I've seen that one yet. Yeah.
So this is the one that I normally have him wrap around his waist.
I don't think I've seen it on there.
Yeah, I don't think I've drawn him with it on since. But I also was really into drawing the accessories that the character wears, like on the side. I watched
That's very like Square Enix art book.
Or you know which one it was, now I'm thinking about it. It was The Last Story. Did you ever play that on the Wii?
I don't think so, no.
So they have this little art book that came with it, and it's only like 40 pages, but I think it's a great art book. I think it's so excellent. And they did the thing where they had the accessories on the side of the characters.
Oh.
So now the last time I drew Nate, this was, I want to say like 5 years ago, maybe 4 years ago. I clearly was experimenting with like colored line art and going a little back to the cleaner aesthetic. I mean, a little rough in some areas, but I definitely know that my focus was more on like the face and having a clean read when you look at the character, because I wanted this to be, I guess, read by the viewer. If I ever made like a book, when I make my swordplay book, it would be like a meet the character, or like character or concept art, and I wanted it to just be very legible. There's definitely some issues in it, and I think it's a little plain. But I do really like how I drew the face. To me, this is Nate. That's how I picture him. And yeah, and I think I really love the red pants idea. I guess I didn't even mention that. That was something very iconic for me. And weirdly, this was initially inspired by One Direction, and it was during their initial band tour, it was Louis that wore red pants and this white shirt. And to me, that visual was so striking that I carried that over into Nate, and I still, to this day, I love a red pant with like a dark boot and a white shirt. Something about it I just find very visually striking. So anyways, that is my little timeline of Nate. And then I also found this, and it was just like a reference, but I'll probably post it on my Instagram tonight. This was his backstory illustration that I did for him, and I still to this day really, really, really enjoy the way I painted this, because it really signifies what I like in digital painting and having smooth versus rough and texture everywhere. And it was like an exploration of color and light. So I'm weirdly proud of this one.
Oh yeah, Pixel says it, and the red shoe soles. Can't forget that.
Yes, my Louis Vuitton inspiration, Christian Louboutin. I think what sucks is Final Fantasy 15 then did that with all their characters. And I was like, no, it's going to look like I'm ripping off them, but I swear I was doing this way before. But anyways.
That's right.
I guess Tetsuya is also big into fashion, so it kind of makes sense that Louboutins would be in it. But you can see even in here, a lot of my detail went into the boots more than anything else. Oh, and yes, if you're wondering, there is supposed to be like a faint hint of a skeleton rib cage on his shirt. He has like this weird obsession with thinking he's gonna die early, so it's just supposed to be like a small little metaphor into how he feels about life. So yeah, that is what we're gonna be painting today. And this was a pencil drawing I did 2 years ago. And I really liked it because I think it shows more of like him posing and it not being just like a static your video game like T-pose. And this is the one I chose to color today. So I hope you guys are ready for this because I'm gonna kind of just dive into it. Now I'll probably talk for like the next like 8 minutes straight, so just be prepared for that. But then I promise we'll get to questions. Okay, so the first thing that I did was I brought this pencil drawing into Photoshop, and since I kind of cleaned it up for when I had to print it for my third sketchbook, the edges of the lines are pretty clean, because sometimes if they're a little dusty or if they have a little pixelness to the edge, when you try to select it for what we're about to do, it won't be as clean of a cut. So to better demonstrate what I'm talking about, let me make sure you guys can see the toolbar here. Okay. So I'm going to grab the magic wand tool. And this is basically the best way to select a large area of a similar value. So you just click it. And you can see you have these marching ant lines that select pretty much everything that's in the scene. But you also have to select things within the character that couldn't have been reached. So like under his legs. I'm going to need water. Under these feathers.
Do you want more water?
Oh, no, I got some.
Oh, okay.
When I talk too fast, I get like the weird hiccups where I like have to keep pushing it down. And then in between each of these strands here, I think that should be all of it. Let me double check. Oh, no, right here. So basically look for the gaps where you want the background to be selected. And then from here, go to select inverse. Oh, you guys can't really see it, but basically it's a select toolbar on the top. And when you inverse it, instead of selecting all the background, it'll select the opposite. And in this case, it's the subject matter of Nate. So I'm going to make a new layer underneath the pencil layer. This is important. And I already made the pencil layer multiply, but change the pencil layer to multiply. And the reason I like to do this is I like to paint underneath of the pencil sketch as long as I can, similar to last week. And then I paint on top some like extra details or highlights as I see fit. But now here, we're going to go ahead and fill in the character. Ta-da! And then Command D if you're on a Mac to deselect it. Now, as you can see, this is what I meant where if you have clean lines on the edge, you'll have a nice separation of the background and where you want your line art to begin. Now, the issue with drawing on pure white is it can throw a lot of the values and the saturation off in your head. So instead, I like to work on a neutral gray background. So I'm going to go ahead, make a new layer under this, and just fill it in. And that way, I was always taught that drawing on pure white is really intimidating. So if you make it a neutral gray, hopefully that'll help be a little less intimidating.
And you got your drawing colored in.
And you're done. Okay, thank you for coming to the live stream. He is a red boy. I think I'm going to choose a darker red though. I tend to like to work, really quick, if you deselected, the easiest way to paint in the same selection is on the layers menu, there's this checkerboard. It locks the transparent pixels. so that when you paint on it, it'll only paint on what you've already painted in that layer. So then I'm going to uncheck it now, or actually I'll keep it checked. But I like painting darker and then painting on the light. So that's what we'll be doing today. Okay, you guys ready for this? Actually, I might separate this into different layers so that maybe I'll give this PSD for you guys to check out if you want to look at it afterwards. And if you're watching this on YouTube way later, I'll have a link to a Dropbox or something. So whenever you want to make, since I'm separating this into different layers, what I'm going to be doing is I create a new layer, and I hold Command on a Mac, and I think it's Control on a PC. You might have to correct me on that. Click the layer that you've drawn within. You can see it marching and selects the subject matter, and then choose the masking button, bada bing. And you can see how we have this weird silhouette of the character. You don't want to paint in that layer, that adds or minuses on the selection. Instead, click the left side, and now you can paint within the character and it'll only paint within the lines. I'm going to keep doing this technique throughout the stream. Like I said, for the PSD to be given to you guys and you can check off the layers. But normally I wouldn't work on as many layers as you're going to be seeing today, but I think as an example, it works. So what do we do now? So I'm going to go in and basically paint basically paint by numbers. The skin, the hair, the eyes, the jacket, the pants, the shirt, the boots, the accessories, and the belt. And I'm gonna kind of separate them with a solid color, and then I'll paint from there. And because I like red being the undercolor of Nate, in some areas, I'm gonna let some of that red peek through. And this is where more of my fantastical intuition comes with color. I'm not saying this is the way to do it, that's the way I like working with color. So let's go ahead and do that. And while I'm doing this, now we can get some questions in, because this will take me a little bit. That's your cue.
Okay. Oh, Horace, by the way, Tim, please know my art lecturer has made it a running joke that you're always one of my inspiration artists in those subjects. But yeah, let me see.
Oh, thank you, thank you.
Unique, it's reassuring to see that your younger self painted some awkward shoes as well.
Oh, yeah, and those Pumas.
Fem also said, I like to think the white on the boots is the skin of his enemy.
Get out of here.
Jonathan was thanking you for some of the Kickstarter stuff. Just said, just wondering if there are unseen things I need to prep for Kickstarter wise. That's really good to know. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of just weird things. Yeah. I had no idea were involved.
If I had to give like a couple tips with Kickstarter, the first one would be don't plan to make profit with Kickstarter. Plan on getting an excess of inventory that you can sell on your shop or at a show or whatever afterwards. I think too many people plan on trying to make a profit from it when really the goal should be having a bunch of inventory that you can sell afterwards. And I feel like once you do one, you kind of recognize that, but I think it's hard to see that at first. Because you just see someone that makes, 20, 30, 50 grand on Kickstarter and you think that, wow, they made a lot of money. But in reality, like even with the card Kickstarter, we technically ended at 53, but Kickstarter and credit cards takes 5% of that money. So then we ended up with like 48, I believe, or somewhere around there. And then it was, what was it? The cards themselves admittedly they were kind of expensive. They were like 24 grand, I believe. And then we had to pay for the shipping labels, the packaging, and the tissue. And then we had to pay for tape, weirdly enough. And like I try to factor all this in. And when you look at how much profit you actually walk away with, it's not as much as you might think. It's actually pretty low. But when you order, we did excess orders. So instead of ordering just 2,200 for the Kickstarter, we ordered 5,000 so that way we would have way more cards left over that we could then sell throughout the year at conventions whenever they come back. So just when you run a Kickstarter, don't worry if you don't make a lot of profit or if there's a lot of unseen hidden costs. That's pretty normal, I would say, when it comes to running a Kickstarter. That's all I got. Oh, and prep. Definitely give yourself more than a week to prep the actual Kickstarter page. I would honestly say like a month of like marketing, promo, making sure the page is good, the video, all that.
Well, doing all the graphics for it and stuff that you had to do, that took a while.
Absolutely.
Simon says, my favorite thing about drawing my first original character lately has been the story behind them. I feel like that's kind of what motivates you while you're drawing it too, is almost you're like imagining their story.
Oh, it's so hard to draw a character that is part of a story and not think about, who they are during it. I mean, yeah, sometimes your mind will wander, but honestly, I'm thinking about the character a good chunk of the time I draw on them.
Lena says, I remember this sketch because I really wanted you to draw one of these for every single character in Swordplay, but I think you ended up not doing 3 of them.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I think that's exactly the number that I didn't do. Literally, I was thinking about that, and I will finish them because I'm working on Grizzy's backstory right now. Actually, you know what? I kind of want to show the glimpse of where I'm at with it.
Oh, it's so cool in the shirt how you can see the skull part.
The ribcage?
Yeah, it kind of just...
It's like, it's there. It's like a hint. But here is what I've been working on. This is my character Grizzy. And honestly, I'll probably have her done in a month or 2. I've been trying to put an hour a day. I've been trying to get back to my schedule that I was really proud of before. So this is where she's currently at. And the whole idea with her is that she's at this local bar and all these youngsters are talking amongst themselves, and she's in their presence, but no one wants to engage with her. And it's supposed to be something that you see throughout the book with her about how it's hard for her to connect with people. I mean, she's definitely like a brass, kind of a little too bold for comfort type character. And she has kind of a grit that is, you either love it or you hate it. So that's going to be something I'm going to explore with her throughout the story.
Yeah, I'm excited to see more of Grizzy.
But Grizzy is one of the characters I didn't do one of these standing profiles for, and I will go back to her.
Elena, don't give me false hope. I will wait, sort of patiently. Hubby says, how did you find your art style? Like, which artist inspired you?
So I think with most artists, it will change throughout the years, especially as you get older. But I will say, when I was in my college days, a lot of color exploratory artists inspired me, like Feverworm and at that time, gosh, those were so different days. There was a lot of League artists that inspired me, especially when they started really exploring their splash art. I think Jinx was a really big inspiration for me. I think that was by Katie DeSousa, I believe. And I remember thinking that was like the perfect splash screen and the perfect character design for that type of game. But as I got a little older, I think my style started to come into its own after I met Alan Williams at a convention. It was a Spectrum. And I was a little bit out of college, but I remember seeing his art and thinking, oh my gosh, I can do pencils. And I much prefer doing pencils because I've done that my whole life. Because I didn't even touch Photoshop until I was 18, 19, really. And I didn't grow up with like a super rich family, so me drawing on paper and pencil was basically my entire life. And the thing that really shook me about Alan Williams' work, and if you don't follow him, I really think you should. I think he's like a living master of pencil and graphite. But his textures and his subtle realism was so well crafted that it made me think I can do something similar. But as I started doing more of like hyperrealism, I kind of found this level of intrigue with distorting realism and having contrast be more of the focus than actual realism. So honestly, if it wasn't for Alan Williams, I don't think I would have explored that path, and I don't think I would have gone back into pencils as hard as I did. So I really do attribute him for a lot of the success I've had in today's times.
Stay still.
And since then, I think a lot of artists that are inventive or unique or original, those are the ones that really kind of get my mind going. I try to do like a which artists inspire me every year stream at the end of every year. So if you want to see which artist inspired me in 2020, I will definitely have that stream. But you can actually watch my one from last year on YouTube right now.
Lane is in the chat.
Oh, hello, hello.
Miss you and love you. Hope you're feeling okay. Lane, we miss you so much.
Oh, thank you, Elaine. So cute.
All right. Cameron, for those of us that missed the Kickstarter for your books, is there another way to purchase them? Yes, they'll be on the Etsy store once we have those.
Whenever they arrive.
Probably later this year sometime. Hopefully this year. For sure this year.
It's like the weirdest thing to have to tell people, like, we don't even know when they're coming in.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
I think I get about like 3 messages on it. Not 3. It's an exaggeration. At least a couple or a few messages a week about that on Etsy, and I'm always like, come back sometime later this year.
Oh gosh. It's embarrassing all around.
Fem, oh god, my thoughts are so weird. Really, Fem, you hadn't let us know that. I'm working on the Dirt Kid, and now my thought was that I want a Dirt Kid for each of the Swordplay characters, like the Pixies and Imps. That'd actually be really cute.
That would be really cute.
A Nate Dirt Kid.
I mean, I can imagine exactly what it would look like, and I can almost imagine what type of flower it would be. Actually, I don't even think it would be a flower. Well, I don't want to give it away what I would think it would be.
Oh. Okay.
Really quick, I should mention that the way that I'm isolating the colors, this is definitely not the technique I always do. I like to just kind of jump into a lot of my character art. And this is definitely one of the techniques that I would say is more like an industry standard in terms of working more efficiently. But it's sometimes a little static and not the most fun to do, if I was honest. So just know, like, this is just one of many ways you can color. And I don't want this to be seen as this is ad abhorum, like this is the way you gotta do it, or else it won't turn out right, or you're wasting your time. This is just one of many ways.
Oh, Luna. Hello, you two.
Hey, Luna.
Morgan. Excuse me. I always say Luna Luz.
It's just, I think we've talked about this before. It's just a fun username.
It is super fun. Oh, Sarah Barra. I miss you too. I feel like we've not seen you for a bit, Sarah.
How are you doing, Sarah?
Everyone just came in. Can't stay long because I'm at the office. It's all right.
Well, thanks for stopping.
Working hard. Amber Dreams, silly question, but how are you changing the size of your brush so quickly?
Oh, so on a Mac, it's if you hold Control and Option and then slide left to right. This is honestly the best tip you probably, or at least I ever got when learning digital art. And then if I was working with a soft brush, if I was working with a circle brush, we'll say. So you can see how it goes left and right for diameter, but if you go up and down, it changes the hardness. So this is like the easiest way to quickly change things on the go. And honestly, I wish every digital artist like watched a tutorial on just that starting out, because it saves so much time in the long run. So I hope that helped.
I know there was something I missed. I'm trying to find it. I just saw it and I was like, I know I skimmed right past it.
I believe in you.
I don't even know. I don't know. I can't. Oh, here we go. Alright, so I was the hair removal so wholesome Josh. It honestly was annoying me, so I don't know if it probably came across as wholesome, but the entire time I kept staring at the little hair in his cheek, and I was like, that has to go. I'll keep looking at it. Morgan, I caught the big disease when this all started, and it's not fun. I hope you two are doing well. Thank you. It's actually not been too bad. My voice has been the hardest thing for me, though. I don't know if you can tell right now. Probably not. Can you hear? I just feel like my voice, I feel like I have to use extra breath to talk.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. It's like I have to force my voice. Well, happy that you're doing good too, Morgan. Because, yeah, it was pretty okay. I just, the sense of smell and taste, that's been the worst.
Yeah, that does suck. I don't know why people don't talk about that more. Losing your sense of taste and smell is really weird. And it makes food very not unpleasant, but just boring. Because then it's really just textures that you're feeling in your mouth, not so much the taste of it. It's very weird, very weird.
Unique and Pixel at the same time both said they were digging the redhead Nate.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I wasn't hating it either. I might add some of that back.
I mean, I could see Nate like bleaching his hair occasionally, trying out new things.
If he did bleach his hair, it would remind me of, did you ever see the Lady Gaga Marry the Night video?
Yeah, oh my gosh.
Her in the bathtub with that like teal mint hair dye.
But also, imagining Nate spending time to bleach his hair just doesn't seem like something he would spend his time doing, but who knows?
Right. Okay, this is the last thing I have to kind of edge out, and then we'll get into rendering. Because as you can see, we have like a good base of the character. It's just then adding value and lighting and all that good stuff to make him feel more 3D realized. And that's why I guess I don't know why I've never really colored my pencil stuff before, but it's, in my mind, it's so easy because the line art and all the dictation of where to add value is already laid out for you. It's just putting in the extra effort to actually doing it. So I could see me actually doing this with every of the swordplay character lineups that I have, and just kind of having fun with them.
Morgan, you can call me either. I just figured I'd give the option of my real name. It's a personal goal of mine, Morgan. Literally, I have the little list of everyone's names, and yours is a subject line of the list. So it's like in bold. I can see it because I feel like I always start with Luna. So one stream I'll actually say Morgan first without saying Luna. Personal goals. The life of the vonnart assistant.
It's a really hard agenda. I guess, too.
Can we get this fan on, maybe?
Oh, yeah.
It's just really hot in here. Yeah.
I know. Since we don't really have the air conditioning on much these days at the house, during the day, especially midday, it gets kind of warm in the house.
I probably messed it up.
Josh is on a campaign to make this work.
Right.
Actually, it's kind of good timing because then I can talk for a while here. So as of right now, we have all of the character value or the color bases laid out. You know what? I might make the skin though base a little lighter. It seems to be pretty dark for how I picture Nate. So I might change it to about there.
Hopefully the fan doesn't catch on the microphone.
Oh, definitely not at that speed. That'll definitely catch. You turn it on the highest one.
I'm sweating, Tim. I'm sweating.
Let's see here. Where were those band-aids? There we go.
If the fan's annoying, let us know, because I think it should be okay, hopefully now. Sarah Bear, I'm kind of listening on the side while animating a thing, but I wish I could be drawing along. Oh, you're good. Honestly, this one too, you can...
I think the purpose of this one is to just draw alongside.
Yeah. So it's like the perfect one to be.
So just in case of time constraints, I'm going to focus on the areas that I think are the most interesting. And then if we have extra time, I'll do like the areas around the belt and the sweater. But I think I'm going to start with the pants just because literally red is probably my favorite color to work with digitally. My favorite color though right now is probably like a yellow-orange that's the mood I've been feeling with. But red is always so much fun to work with digitally because to add value and to add this level of intrigue to it. It's a lot of fun. Okay, so to explain it better, let me go ahead and start it off. Oh, did I not? The pants aren't on their own layer? Actually, no, that's fine. So I'm gonna make a new layer above all this. So these are essentially like the base layers of each one. And then if the pants were on its own layer, I would mask out the pants, but since the pants are the base, I'm just gonna work right on it, and I'm gonna work underneath of the sweater layer. So I'll just put pants detail, and maybe to help separate it, because if you work with a lot of layers, this is where it can become a little confusing. So that's why they can color coordinate your layers, and it makes it way easier. So going into this, I'm gonna have a lot of the lighter values be kind of near the top of the pants, and then it'll kind of gradient down to more of a darker red. But like I said, since I'm painting underneath of a pencil drawing, all of the detail and or not all of it, but most of the detail and most of kind of like the directions of where to add the values already given for me. That's why I've always loved, that's why I'm really loving working under pencil drawings now, because I'm realizing how much work is already done for me. And at this point, it's just adding on to what is already there. So as I'm going down, I'm looking at where the wrinkles seem to be bubbling kind of higher, and then I'm putting the value on the top part of that bubble, and then on the lower part of where that wrinkle kind of curves back down, I'm going to leave it as that shadow red color. And basically I do this all the way down. And then like these little seams, kind of the edges of the pants, I'll add a bit of a highlight on each of them. Not like a white highlight in the way that you may think of it, but in like a capturing the contrast. Because I will never put like a pure white highlight on pants like this, because I'm thinking of denim, and I'm thinking of the way that that material interacts with lighting, and for the most part it absorbs light. So if I'm adding a bunch of highlights, that would either imply that it's a fake denim, like a stretchy or like a material that's made out of something besides denim, and I don't want to give that impression. So a lot of digital painting with characters is literally thinking about the material in which you're painting, and does it make sense in the way that you're having it treat lighting. So when it comes to jeans or denim, if your character is wearing them, try not to over highlight things. Try to accentuate the base color, the local color of whatever it is that the pants or the jeans are, and then push some areas of lighter value, but don't overdo it. And that's my tips with jeans.
So Nate doesn't wear spandex.
Yeah. So this is not a latex onesie that he's wearing underneath. These are definitely denim jeans, and I do want them to have somewhat of a worn look to them. So with this red, this lighter red that I'm working with, every now and then I can add more of like a scratchy technique of painting it on, and that will make it easier to kind of give that appearance. And I really like this little stitched block rectangle that I have on him. So I'm just gonna accentuate it so it's a little more obvious to the viewer looking at it. I already know I'm gonna have to probably paint over some of the detail down here because it gets so muddled with the pencil dust, or I don't know what you would want to call it, like the pencil texture, that it just kind of reads as dirty. And while I think in some areas that'll work really well, I think for some of the detailing in the pants that I want to do, it's more of a distraction. So I'm gonna go through. Actually, if we have any questions, I guess I can answer them now while I'm working on the pants.
Lane says, what? You can change the softness? I thought I knew Photoshop pretty well till now.
Yeah, isn't that great? Because you can, if you're working with a circle brush, it's so easy then to switch between size and softness.
Pixel, yeah, I was gonna say he would probably mess up bleaching his hair. Yeah, I mean, not the most appearance focused person, but I did actually like bleaching my hair a lot, and even I hated it eventually.
What? You love appearances.
Okay, a little bit. I'm just saying, even bleaching my hair, I hate it doing it every time.
Yeah, right. You wanted to do it as soon as your roots were showing even a little bit.
I was like, apparently Gwen Stefani will like use a toothbrush or something on her roots. Yeah, that's how her hair is always so like perfect.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, she'll do like tooth touch-ups every like other day.
I mean, I guess that makes sense if you want it like consistently bleached.
Right.
But
gosh,
that is dedication on a new level. And also, if you want something to appear like it's coming toward the camera, you can see how adding this lighter red makes it feel as if the leg that's behind it then pushed back, because it kind of implements then that, or it implies that the lighting is coming from overhead. So, like I said, I like to play with realism lighting, but then I like to mess with it a bit. All right, I kind of like what we got going on here.
Oh, Eris. I was confused by Aris. My mom always taught me to say it's like Paris without the P. Oh, Eris. I'm a big Survivor fan, so there was someone on one of the seasons that had the name Aris, but he would say it as Aris.
Oh.
Survivor.
Josh is where he gets his culture from.
Pretty much.
Okay, I feel pretty good about the red pants, so I'm going to keep moving up. Actually, I'm going to do just the sole of the boots since they're red too. The easiest way to make anything like this rounded out is push contrast in like a heavy and a dark way. And you can see how I'm making the tip of the boot probably the lightest. I could even go brighter than that, honestly. And then some bounce light on the edges. And you see how it kind of rounds it out immediately. And like the bottom of the sole will keep rather dark. Maybe I'll add just a touch of lightness near the front, but not too much. There we go. So that's the sole of the boot. Oh, and I'll do this one too. What is that boot layer? There we go. What?
I kind of like how the sole sticks out a little bit.
I kind of made it over exaggerated.
Yeah.
Because I really wanted the red to be seen even when he's just standing with flat-footed.
Eris said out the guy in Survivor was named Eris Tawas? Oh my gosh. Unless his mom was also a pretty funky lady. I like that name a lot though. And actually I like Eris, Eris a lot. Felix, I've been bleaching my hair for like 7 years now. It started because of Jack Frost. And I just stuck with the white hair look. That's kind of honestly why I started doing it too, was Jack Frost. I think I did once, but I kind of just like the plain old like bleached white Jack Frost look.
Okay, I'm gonna do a quick little tutorial again. So I want to only color on the skin, and since we have a skin layer, but it still has the mask out, if I try to mask out the skin layer like that, you can see how it still kind of goes outside of the line. So I don't really want that. So instead, I've got to flatten the skin base into a normal layer like that, because I know I'm not going to be editing it anymore. And now the new layer, when I mask it out, you can see how it only grabs the skin layer here, and it doesn't go outside of that marching ant selection. So I'm going to mask that out.
Marching ants.
And now I'm going to paint him. Now, painting skin, it kind of depends on a few factors. I try to keep it more muted, or not muted, more matte. Unless if you want the character really looking sleek or sweaty, or they just came out of a pool, you really don't need to make it super high contrast. And I see a lot of characters that, let me give you an example. Like, let's say I painted this arm, and then at the end, you keep going lighter and lighter, and it does round it out more. But at some point, let's say I started adding white, it just looks like they're plastic. It almost gives the impression of like being manufactured and they're a doll. So I try not to go that much extreme ever when I'm painting characters like this. I try to keep it, like I said, more matte, and I'll show you the difference once I get this character more fleshed out. Then since I have the light source coming from overhead, this is a good example of how the arm and where the shoulder meets, it's going to be light. I'm going to work with a different color really quick. So this is a perfect example right here. Make sure you guys can see it on how to paint edges that are really close like this. So since the light source is coming from overhead, this arm is going to be rounded out, and I'm thinking of it completely separate of the shoulder, because then if you think of the shoulder, I'm going to push that light right up against this arm here, but then as that shoulder curves around, this side of the shoulder wouldn't be receiving as much of direct light. So I'm going to have it slowly fade off like this. But on the arm, it's going to continue all the way down. So it creates this cool little area of contrast, and it kind of also creates an area of believability to it. So I'm going to go ahead and... I forgot that I usually don't mask things out this cleanly, so I can move pretty quickly. I keep forgetting about that. So same thing with the shoulder on this side. The most direct light will be on the top of the shoulder, and then since he's pulling his arm back a bit, it won't be as well lit. So I'm going to make it a little softer, but then right where that arm juts out, it will be catching that light source. So then this will be a bit heavier here of that direct light, and then it fades around the arm. And honestly, a lot of this just goes back into thinking of basic forms when you're coloring. Think of cubes, spheres, cones, and cylinders. So in this case, the arms would be cylinders, and you just paint them as you would as if they were in like a life drawing session, and you place these objects, you know, where they are according to the light. And you know what? Here's another good example. The finger. The top of the finger will be more lighter in its value than the underside. So same with these fingers. And at some point, the fingers are blocking one another from receiving the light, so it would be darker going down. But then the thumb would receive a lot of good light. So now here's where things get a little weird, because with the neck, most of it probably should be in shadow. But since I like having the light source a little bit in front of the character, there probably would be a little bit seen that wouldn't be casted from the head, where the chin and the jaw are casting a shadow onto the neck. So I'm gonna have some of that there. But his face, for the most part, will be in light. But I'm still gonna treat it as if the light source was overhead. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I think it's important to kind of get that point across so that it becomes really obvious of where to paint these values. Forehead will be pretty well lit, except for the area near the hairline. I'm gonna make actually a soft brush here. It's probably gonna be a tad darker, but not super dark. But there will be a small cast shadow from each of these little strands of loose hairs that are just kind of hanging down. So even with this one, probably be like that. Sometimes I need to like look away from or like back it up, because sometimes when you're so zoomed in, you get caught into what you think might look right, but then when you back out, you're like, oh no, that's definitely wrong. So I got to remind myself to stay a little zoomed out at this stage. Okay, maybe as I'm editing this face, if there's any questions then.
Oh yeah. Well-tempered Claire says, how long do you estimate the tarot deck will take?
2 years. I mean, thankfully, with how quick I was able to finish the first one, it kind of did give me insight of, okay, I could do easily one a month, And I think my goal would be probably around 2 a month. And if you look at, okay, there's 78. And how many weeks are there in a year? 56, 52?
Yes.
Why am I forgetting that? I feel like that's a weird thing to forget. Right? 52.
52.
I thought it was 50. I knew it was one of the two.
It was a 50-50 chance I got it right.
You rolled the dice. Yeah, if there's 52 weeks, that would mainly mean I could get it done technically then in 1 year. But like I said, I don't think I'll always be able to get 2 a month done. So I would say 2 years is like a safe bet. But I guess realistically, maybe like 1.5 years and then a Kickstarter. We'll see. We'll see.
Oh, Eris says, thank you so much for the awesome lesson. I need to head to bed, but I hope you all stay safe. Feel better and take care of yourselves. Drink water, you dingus.
Well,
thank you so much.
Thanks for stopping by.
Oh, Jonathan says, I had the honor of meeting Ahmed Aldori in Glasgow in March. Remember when things were almost normal? Using a sketch nim from that drink and draw for this follow along. Oh, also my Kickstarter video guy just sent me the final cut. Freaking excited now. Cue Scottish waterfalls and waistcoats.
I mean, that's great.
Jonathan does sound like a sweetie. Also, Josh, where's that stash at?
Dun, dun,
gone.
dun.
I'm no longer a man.
Ooh, I mean, that would imply you were one to begin with.
Oh.
This is our life.
There's a little stash there right now, but I found my razor finally. That's so exciting though. Actually, to have your video too.
That's huge.
Yeah.
Honestly, the video is like a really big part of Kickstarters that people underestimate, I would say.
Oh yeah. Claire also said, will there be a gold gilding or coloring?
Yep. Yeah, all the cards will be gold gilded on the edges. I'm sure I'll do something fancy with the card box. Yeah, I mean, if it's from me, you can expect a certain level of gaudiness.
Anra, thank you so much.
Thank you for the subscribe.
Unix says, do you blend your colors mostly with regulating your pen pressure?
Yes. I mean, like I said, this is a little weirder for me because I normally don't separate the layers like this, but I wanted to have like a clean, nice Photoshop file for you guys. I mean, it's, I guess, a little misleading because technically I don't even do it this way naturally, but I think it's good for you guys to at least be able to like turn on and off the layers and see, oh, okay, this is what this layer did and blah, blah, blah. But normally I kind of just work like a painting and I flatten the layers. And I know it's kind of, that probably gave someone stress just hearing that. But yeah, I like to work on only like a few layers and then I combine them all into one and then I continue working from there. Okay, I think though, like I can already tell I'm like itching to do a good clean face render. So I think I'm gonna do this a really weird style of skipping some steps. And I'm gonna make a new layer above all this, grab the same layer mask, and I'm gonna do a paint on the face. So we're gonna turn Nate into not so much of a mannequin like he kind of looks like right now. And by doing that, you're gonna see a lot of quick action. I'm gonna try to explain it to the best of my ability when it happens, but just stick with me here. Okay, I guess maybe I'll answer some questions before I really dive into this.
Felix says, I think the tarot cards will also be more varied because the themes are more abstract rather than all being pretty portrait. You can do whatever you want with it, really.
Oh, for sure. I mean, I am going to follow the Rider Waite illustration examples. I want to stay true to the card art on some level, just because I know when some people read tarot, they like pick up from the imagery and the illustrations, and they do have meaning behind it, and like why each card has what they do. So I won't stray too far, but I will add like fun little contrast and pencil techniques throughout. So I'm pretty excited about that.
I like some of the tarot decks, but I kind of know what you mean too, because they'll add in like there'll be a very elaborate image on it, but sometimes that can, especially when you're doing a reading, I feel like that can, I don't know, make the person look at the image and build a like narrative off of that rather than actually what the card means.
Like if you're a master at tarot, I'm sure it doesn't really matter what's on the card, but yeah, for most people,
yeah,
like the card does help illustrate what the reading dictates, or like it gives clues to like what the card means.
Fem, take your time with the Fem, take your card with. Oh my gosh.
Take your time with the card.
I'm sick, all right, and I lost my stash. Take your time with the tarot deck. Take your time. Starts gathering money after splurging on too much awesome stuff already.
I mean, like once winter hits, I might actually have more time to like dive more into it, but I'm trying not to rush it either, because I felt with the poker deck cards, I felt like I did rush some of it. And I mean, obviously because of COVID and things were crazy already at the time, but now that I have some time to really hopefully take the tarot with some care and consideration, I'm going to go a little bit of a slower pace. I'm not going to... That's why it's weird promising like when it will be done, because I personally don't even know. I'm going to just play it by ear. Oh yeah, I forgot Nate has this X scar on his shoulder, so I like to highlight that too.
Oh, Morgan. I missed this earlier too, I'm sorry, but will you be painting over the graphite texture entirely in the finished piece or just select spots?
Select spots. I do like having the pencil texture present in some areas, just not in all areas. So I mean, you'll probably see it better once we get to that point. But honestly, this is somewhat new for me too. I usually don't paint over or under my pencil drawings, and I don't incorporate a lot of what I do traditionally into digital. So I mean, that my opinion on it could change, but as of right now, I do want some of it seen, but not so much that it's distracting.
Drav asks, are both of you brothers?
Ah, no.
Yes. No, we're dating.
Yeah, Josh is my boyfriend.
Lucas says, and I have a question. Lucas says, I am sorry, I can't right now. I'm so like trying to read things and I can't. Lucas, I need to slow down.
Yeah, slow down.
Lucas says, and I have a question. Maybe you've already answered before, but can you give some tips on how to start working as an artist?
Tips on how to start working as an artist. Okay. I think one of the biggest ones is to obviously draw a lot, but I think you also have to recognize, like, is this something you're even passionate about? Because if you get into drawing and you're not fully into the actual process of drawing, there's a good chance that it's not for you. But if you for sure know that this is your passion and this is what you want your career to be, and you want to turn something you love into a way to live your life as a career, blah blah blah, then I think there's a few things you have to do, especially starting off. The first one would be to stay away from social media or have expectations with it in the first few years. I think too many artists compare themselves to, oh, this person has 1 million followers or even 100,000 followers, and that becomes like the goal for a lot of younger artists. And while I think it's good to have a goal and set it that way, if that goal informs or changes the way you approach art in the way of creating like meaningful work, then I think it's more of a problem. And I think too many younger artists make that a problem, unfortunately. And I feel for them, because way too many younger artists have the pressure of social media today, and it causes them to create art that usually looks very hollow or rushed, or they're catering to like different algorithms or things of that nature. And I want you guys to, if you're one of these artists, just throw that notion away. If you do really good art, the following and the all this stuff that is so vanity driven, it will follow. I always think that if you do really good art, the following, the likes, the money, the perceived success that comes with it will follow. But if you don't even have good work to begin with, why have a goal that is so oriented on artists that are creating really stellar work? So the first couple years, just focus on your technique, focus on your method, on what you do, why you do it, and draw all the time. And it almost got unhealthy to me, where I was drawing so much that I wasn't really going out and hanging out with people. I had like a good 2 years where I was just drawing every night, and I didn't have internet at my college dorm, so I didn't even have like any distraction of that nature, and it was weirdly really good for me. I'm glad I didn't have it. But nowadays it's almost impossible to get away from social media and the effects of it. So I feel like you need to force yourself to get away from it as much as you can, which I know can be difficult, but I promise it'll help. The other thing is to not worry so much about finding your style. That is something that will develop over time, and there's too many younger artists that kind of just adopt a more successful artist's style and technique as their own. And admittedly, I've seen some of that even with my own pencil stuff. I just see some people, they'll do certain techniques of contrast or like work in a similar manner that I do my shading and style around things. And while that can be useful as a practice and study, I think if you don't listen to your own taste and your own interest, you'll always kind of look like someone else's art. And the goal is to look like your own art and to have your own style be kind of stand up on its own. So really look at, when you're doing art, why do I like, let's say, Van Gogh's art? What about his painting technique do I want to incorporate into my own work? And it might not be the way that he uses his brushstrokes, but maybe his boldness and the way that he uses big chunks of color to illustrate your painting. I think those are what you need to start looking at, and why do you like them? I always draw eyes with 2 iris lines in it, and that's because I was really influenced from Kingdom Hearts as a kid. And I always draw a lot of belt accessories and have certain aesthetics because Final Fantasy X really inspired me. And I always like the grungy look, and I always have like little, even like these little boxes here on characters because I grew up playing a lot of grunge games like Twisted Metal Black and stuff. So there's influences that inspire and dictate how I draw things, and that's what creates a style, is like a lifetime of exploring what you genuinely enjoy aesthetically or in your interests, and then having that translate into your work. And too many artists don't really focus on that enough, and I think that's where I'm seeing a lot of problem with younger artists, is they're so focused not so much on finding their own voice, but by taking other people's voices and then applying it to an algorithm to generate as much interest in their work as possible. But I think a lot of artists' work nowadays, I mean, I feel like this is maybe coming across a little harsh, but I feel like a lot of art that I see nowadays comes across really hollow. And I've been in that before too. I've definitely played the Instagram game, and you create work that you're not super proud of, but you felt like you had to. So I'm just as guilty. But I see a lot of that nowadays, especially with younger artists. And I would say that would be the biggest advice I would give for just starting out, is to really focus on painting things you enjoy and painting it in a way that you enjoy too. Sorry, that was kind of a long answer, but I feel like I'm very passionate about helping younger artists. And I think because of social media, it's kind of clouded a lot of artists' way of how they probably would have gone about their work naturally.
I feel like even starting off and finding your style has to be really hard, because it's being determined by what you think people are liking more. Like you post one thing in one style and more people like that, so you instantly think that should be my style. It's like, no, that doesn't mean that's supposed to be your style though. Yep. Or what you actually enjoy doing. I heard Astrid for a second, but then I think she left.
Good. She will just meow at us until we open the back door, but now that the back door is open, she just wants to go outside so bad. And when we have time, we can let her out, but like when we stream, we can't just let her out.
Yeah. She got out the other day too, which was scary. But then she always comes back. She somehow got the screen door open herself. She was gone, and then like within maybe 30 minutes came running back in, meowing at us. So thankfully she doesn't run and keep running. But
so another kind of small tip is there are what James Gurney calls color regions of the face, and if you ever need like a really quick under color, if your skin's looking kind of flat, basically the forehead's considered more yellow. Red is in the center of like the eyes and the nose because there's more blood vessels closer to the corner of the eye and the nose. And then especially for male characters, having a blue lower section as like the under shaven look. And if you make it an overlay layer like this and then literally turn the layer opacity down, you can see how there's like hints of the under color, but it's not as prominent. And that's the issue with skin, is usually it looks very flat. And even right now, my skin's looking kind of flat because it's only one range of colors. I got to keep adding all these reds and yellows and really make the skin look more vibrant.
Anna says, since you seem to have multiple styles, do you ever struggle with one style bleeding into another, especially when mixing mediums like now?
You know, I used to, but I just kind of learned to trust my gut. Like if I like the way it looks, then there's something there. And I try to follow that as much as possible. Like right now I can tell something's bothering me about this, and I think his skin is too light already. So okay, how am I going to react to that? Because a lot of doing art is just problem solving. So I'm going to take a multiply layer, I'm going to paint over it, and then if it's too dark, I'll just change the opacity down a bit. And honestly, that's most of my process when working, specifically digital too, is how is this looking to me, and then making quick edits along the way. And that's why I always see digital art as such like a problem solving technique, because with pencils, obviously it's way different, or even oils, or a lot of these mediums that are a little harder to edit on the go. But with digital, it's so easy to make small changes throughout, and I think you should embrace that. That's why it's kind of hard for me to treat digital so strict as I do my pencils, because we have this freedom of changing things so quickly on the go. So yeah, I know that the way I handle digital is so different than the way I handle traditional, and in my mind, that's okay, because I know what I'm capable of doing traditionally and digitally, and I know that they're different. What?
Oh, Luna, or Morgan. Morgan says, "Oh my God, Josh, no, not brothers."
Yeah.
Fem, breathe, relax, take a sip of a drink. Yes, thank you. I talk too quick sometimes when I get excited.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, Pixel, got to go. Bye, everyone. Thanks for stopping. I feel like you probably already left, but it was so good to see you. Oh, Yuki, this is an interesting question. Speaking of creating art with meaning, how on earth do you do that? How do you inject yourself, a story, details, emotion, etc. into your work?
So it's actually not as hard as you might think. I think a really good example is Miles Johnson, or Miles Art on Instagram. And if you look at his art, clearly there's like a metaphor, like a psychological metaphor that a lot of his drawings and paintings embody. So let's say you feel trapped in your current situation, whatever you are in life. Well, you can represent that in a very first surface level thought of thinking, where it's like, okay, a cage. And then, oh, well, I feel trapped in my head. Okay, well, then your head, you could draw a cage, representing that. And then you could have like a mini version of yourself in the cage. I think when you think very specifically on how you're feeling, I think representing that in an artistic visual medium actually isn't that hard. But I think a lot of artists are so not used to doing that. They're so used to seeing what they see on Instagram, which is like pretty girl in like a pose or a fantasy orc or a dragon or whatever it is. And obviously, while those can be really well rendered and beautiful in their own way, a lot of that doesn't speak to how the artist is feeling. Now, one of the best interviews I've ever seen was talking about how an artist can't actually ever escape their art. If they're arrogant, it'll show in their art, regardless of the actual subject matter. So let's say you're a very sad person. Well, when you draw a dragon, it might be really pretty, but that dragon, it might just look a little melancholic. It might have that undertone of something is wrong with that dragon. And I know it sounds silly, but it's very true. And when you look at a very confident artist, a lot of their art, a lot of the characters they create kind of have this secondary characteristic trait of just looking and give off the vibe of also being confident. And I always found that really interesting. So even when I do my own characters, I always wonder, like, what does this say about me? But when creating art that is more like emotional driven, just think about how you're feeling. And maybe it's like maybe it's not sad. Maybe it's you're happy and you're in like a committed relationship. Well, what visually does that look like? Or like one of my favorite drawings that I've done that talks about like victimhood is a bird that is in a cage that's too small for him, and he's like wailing and crying, and there's a lock on the bottom of the cage, but he's also holding a key, which clearly indicates he could get out of this cage that is too small for him. He outgrew, but he chooses to be in it because he'd rather whine and wail in this cage for the attention that he receives from it. So that's like a clear metaphor of like really glamorizing victimhood in a way that's not as obvious at first glance, So yeah.
Simon says, I had a question for you. Do you ever recommend art school? I've been really debating it a lot lately, but I don't know. It almost feels like it's not worth it. Mainly because in my city, it's very low art kind of scene. So I don't want to go and waste money when I could just practice myself.
Yeah, like I did go to art school. I went to Illinois Institute of Art, and I met people that really changed my life, especially I always say Nubia Palacios. I'm very thankful for her. But she gave me this level of competition and this immediate source of someone who was at the same skill level that I was at. Actually, admittedly, I would say they were better. And it was like we were one-upping each other every time we would see each other. And I obviously didn't get that when I left school. It was a lot of very much by myself learning, and it was a slower pace. So weirdly, I don't even think school is worth it for the education that you get from it or the quality of education. I think it's more worth it for the people that you meet and the peers that you'll have, and the engagement and learning that happens from your peers, which is, I guess, a little unusual to think about. So I guess, honestly, I wouldn't say it's worth it, and I don't think most game studios and companies nowadays, actually I know most game studios and companies don't really care if you went to a school. As long as you got good quality work, that's all they really care about. But if you feel that you do better when given assignments and tasks, and you're more of a assignment-driven type person, then yeah, school might be perfect for you. But if you're someone that is kind of learning and growing on their own pace anyways, yeah, I don't really think it's worth it for you, unless if you really want to find a peer group or similar-minded people that are in this industry to chat with and work alongside from. I mean, obviously with COVID, it's definitely not worth it because you'd be doing class from inside your own place anyways.
I feel like now, especially with the internet now too, and Discord communities and all these things, I feel like you can find probably those groups of people without needing school.
See, I still think in person is more important. I might be just too old. I'm one of those people who I think physical interaction is far more important than like online interaction. And while online interaction is great for like staying in touch, I think sitting next to someone, watching them draw and like having that conversation, like looking over their shoulder, see what they're doing, and kind of be forced to have that interaction, I feel is far more important than just being on like a Discord community. Even though I feel like that is important as well, I don't think it's as important.
Jonathan quoted you, what you generally enjoy aesthetically and having that translate into your work. Nailed it.
Yeah. Yeah, I still agree with that.
Also, Jonathan says getting strong Fable vibes from Nate at this stage of the piece. I think this was probably said a little bit earlier, but Fable's a good game.
Yeah, it's, you know what's kind of, I did the radish little guy I think last week, and I was so proud of it, but I'm realizing it's a little more difficult with a human character because a lot of these scratch marks that I have with my pencil are kind of more distracting, and painting under it you can only go so far. So what do I have? Oh my gosh, we only have a half hour left?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna definitely work on this a little bit before I share it tonight, and I'll organize the layers way better, but I am gonna draw over the pencil drawing, so at least you guys can see an example of what this process would start to look like then too. Because I didn't realize we didn't have that much time left. So I guess, yeah, if you guys have any questions while I'm working on this, because this will probably take me just a little bit.
Amber Dream says, a lifetime developing your style. Come on, how old are you? But I do love your style. Your pencil work is very soft and reminds me of Alan Lee. And do encourage us old artists too. Some of us aren't experienced.
Yeah, I guess when I say young artist, I don't mean like young in age. I guess I should clarify that. I mean like young as in how long you've been doing art. But like even the style that I have today, I honestly think will continue to develop. I don't think it's at like its final point. And it's weird because I could totally just ride the wave of where my style's at right now for the rest of my life. And I'm sure I could just draw pixies and fairies and pretty girls with horns, and I could make a career out of that and be fine financially, but I would be so disappointed in myself personally, because I know there's more to me than just drawing these pretty pictures when it comes to what I can give to the art world before I die. And I don't want my, what I pass on to just be that. So I'm curious to see where I go with my art. I know I want to try stained glass at some point whenever my schedule lightens up a little bit. And I think it's good to explore facets of what you're capable of drawing and what you're interested in, because even though like Pretty Girl with Horns will probably always be popular in media, I think at some point as an artist you outgrow it, but then you feel like you're forced to draw these things for, once again, that social media engine that everyone's charging under. And I don't want that to always be what influences what I draw next. So like I said, it's a hard game to break out of once you're in it, because you know all the tips and tricks to kind of get ahead. But at some point you're just like, I just want to become more than just that.
On here he says, if you've ever lost joy in your art, how do you get out of that rut and find life and love in what you create again?
Oh, this is a great question, because I definitely think I felt that when I was doing the card decks, and I was creating things that were so commercial, and they were so commercial driven, like the inspiration behind it. So honestly, I think going back to what do you enjoy creating, why do you enjoy creating that, and trusting your gut. If you really aren't enjoying what you're working on, that's probably a good sign that you're doing it for the wrong reasons. And I definitely felt that way. And it was only until probably recently that I kind of found my path again with doing art and writing swordplay again. And I think one of the biggest distractions when losing art is financial gain or following gain, or playing the social media wagon. So I think sometimes stepping away from that for a bit, if you're able to, that can be really helpful in kind of refinding your love for why you draw in the first place. Oh yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's been definitely something you're finding that again, thankfully. Because I can always tell when you're not fully enjoying it either, because you do definitely like it affects you. Yeah, like
I don't feel as happy.
Drawing, it's so important to you. So when you're not able to find that joy in it, it's like a part of you is missing. Andrew says, I'll probably go check more Gurney for color advice, but do you have any tips on painting skin for a variety of ages, genders, makeup? Example, old people's skin feeling more bland, but also have more shadows, wrinkles.
I mean, that's it right there. It's just like a lot of observation, and clearly you're already like aware that there's differences, and then I just would say playing that up when you recreate it. And if you can kind of tell that, okay, what would be a good example? Okay, like lips. So I've always been afraid to add color to lips, especially on guy characters, because it always looks like they're wearing lipstick or lip gloss of some kind. But I'm realizing that when I make them more neutral looking, sometimes they can look like an alien. Hold on, where's my old... Oh, did I close them? Oh, no, I didn't. See how it's kind of like a safeguard to draw like very neutral, not a lot of color in the lips? But honestly, it almost looks like he's wearing like his skin tone version of lipstick or something. It has like this very matte appearance. So I'm still learning how to do it. Like even here, this looks like weird. And I'm learning how to do it without making it feel super weird. But on a female, I mean, obviously boys can wear makeup too, and this isn't just exclusive to girls, but I would say a lot of the times you can over embellish it, or you can do like very harsh lines, and it will definitely give the appearance of lipstick. So if I gave Nate lipstick right now, I'd probably, painting under, there we go, do very hard edges, probably go a little above the lip. Oops. And then you can kind of play it up that way, and like that would definitely give the impression of lipstick. So I think a lot of like looking at how it looks in life and then trying to recreate that in your drawings, because even you can tell between my old and new painting, I obviously spent a lot more time on rendering this face, but this new one, whenever I get it finished, it'll look more grungy, it'll look more like the Nate that I want to kind of give the impression of, because I think I was trying to make it look too perfect, and in doing so it looks a little artificial in some areas. Now mind you, for the most part I actually do like that drawing of Nate, but I do want to add a bit more of that pencil texture to be seen, and I'm still learning how to do that, admittedly.
I think I remember reading if you have naturally more pink lips, that means you're hydrated. There's something about your lip color and hydration.
Oh, I believe that, yeah.
Yuki says, oh wow, that is a really interesting way to look at it. Thank you. The older I get, the more it seems like creating art is a very therapeutic, introspective activity.
Absolutely.
Simon says, that makes sense. I'm pretty good at practicing myself, and it's been pretty good meeting artists online and find art friends and stuff that has helped. Before COVID, I was going to life drawing classes, meeting people, but then boys got canceled. Thanks, COVID.
I was doing life drawing sessions with, actually, once again, our old roommate Tyler, and it was great. I felt like I was learning again on how to see the forms of the body in a way that I admittedly was just kind of coasting off of what I already knew. So going back to it was really great, but then, COVID.
Simon also says, what I've been trying to do is start a personal project. When I'm starting my first OC, because it gets me excited to draw every day and think about stuff.
Yep.
My biggest struggle is feeling like doing this full time seems so far away. But I've started to learn that it's okay to work at Starbucks or something to fill that time as I grow myself.
Absolutely. I feel like a lot of these are just good comments, not just questions.
Yeah. Well, especially because I think even for you, it's like people see where you're at now too, but you weren't able to always be full time. It took you, there's, a transition to getting to that.
I didn't get full time until I was 27, I believe. And even before then, I was working, I was a teacher online for 6 years. And before that, I shucked oysters at a seafood restaurant, and I was a cake decorator, and I was a sushi boy at one point. I was a lawyer's assistant. I worked retail. So I think it's good to know that, everyone's path is going to be different, and it's okay if you're working at a job that isn't art centric at the moment, because you can work towards it in your off time. And I guess that is another important thing I should have mentioned earlier. If you're a younger artist, make use of your spare time. Don't use all of it playing video games. If you really do, you want to have this career in art, you can't be wasting that precious extra time that you get at night or morning, depending on when you work.
Starbucks actually is a pretty good place depending on your manager, but I remember we had one girl when I worked at Starbucks, and the little boards where the menus are, ours were actually we had these chalk ones too, but she would actually write menus out too and do really cute drawings on them and stuff. So maybe they'd even let you do that stuff there, because I think it's kind of fun to be able to still share your art with people.
Yeah. And
Starbucks is great because you literally can draw something and everyone sees it that comes in. Fem says, I think the learning aspect of school can be done online, but forming bonds with people is easier in person, although not impossible.
Yeah. I guess just from the people I've talked to in my personal experience with it, it seems like online, it's very different type of an experience than when you're, with them, sitting next to them, and being able to talk right then and there, and, look at what you've done artistically and compare it. But you're right, it still is possible. I shouldn't just downplay it immediately. It is still possible.
Zadric says, any tips on painting clothing folds and skin folds?
Yeah, so on this shirt here, you can see how the wrinkles are kind of already defined beforehand. And all I'm doing is accentuating where it bubbles up. So here, you can see how I'll probably push more of the middle of it, but then on this side, I'll keep it more in shadow. Same with this area, and then more in shadow. So a lot of it is just playing with light and shadow, and then having it be stronger where you want, obviously, the light to be placed, and then a little weaker where you want there to be a shadow crease. So this really long wrinkle going down the shirt here will kind of go down the center with this lighter value, and then same with the shirt on this side. You can see how it kind of slowly builds up that illusion of the wrinkle forming. It kind of bunches up here. Really place your highlights on where those indents of the wrinkles are pushing and jutting out. Like that. Now, if you do this right, you don't have to worry about the detail of, in this case, the rib cage that Nate has on. It should still read. Let me push this further back. But it should be more subtle. And I don't want the skeleton cage to be in your face. Oh, yeah, and then up here. Make sure you render every part of the shirt. And you can see how slowly he's feeling more three-dimensional. Now, I feel like I definitely bit off more than I could chew in a 2-hour time frame, but thankfully I have 20 minutes and I'll do what I can.
It's coming together. It's so cool that this works with the coloring. I think these have been so fun to watch. I just get mesmerized for a while.
I do feel like something like this, though, should have easily been a 3-hour stream. I think because I had such success with the Radish kid last week.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, okay, let me just do Nate. I can do that in 2 hours. I think I need more time for a full character.
Just confident.
Little overconfident there.
Fem, so Nate in drag? I think he will look amazing, just putting it out there. Nate would look great in drag, actually.
Yeah, I feel like Nate would pull it off. So
Marcel,
the area
thank
of
you
the...
so much.
Oh, well, thank you.
One ding, hang on. Perfect.
So the back of the jacket, I'm going to make lighter to kind of give that impression that it's further back, and it helps accentuate the difference between the front of the jacket and the back of the jacket. As you can see there, it's starting to feel more three-dimensional. Yeah, I'm not a fan of how I did that skin at all. This is like one of those times where on stream I'm like, I just want to redo it completely, but I guess
what are you liking about it?
It's bad. I know it's bad.
Oh.
And to fix it, I almost feel like I have to delete it first.
Is it just the tone, or?
Yeah, it's not working. And I think that's okay to admit when you're doing art. I remember reading something recently about this on art isn't supposed to be this like easy handling process from start to finish. If so, then that means you're not being challenged enough. And I think about that when I'm working on art and I get really frustrated or flustered. And I remind myself that it's okay, you know. Sometimes with art, it isn't this easy, fun process. Like there are points where it'll be frustrating. And I think that's okay, as long as you remember that that's not forever, that's not permanent. And that sometimes with art, it's just maybe not your day, or maybe you took a stab at it and it just doesn't work. The best thing you can do is recognize if you can kind of tell something's not working and then fix it sooner than later. So like probably when the stream ends, we'll still get Subway where we'll order in, but I'll probably just redo a lot of the skin or paint over the areas that I don't like and edit it that way. Actually, maybe I can salvage some of it on the stream.
Jonathan Vidal says, skin is such an interesting one. Your subsurface scattering video with the mole back in the day was so helpful. Marco Gucci has some great points on skin in his character series too.
Well, thank you. Well, that's the thing with skin, is it'll look really flat unless you kind of create that, because skin does have subsurface scattering within it, but you need to showcase some of the colors within the skin. It's not just this like pale gradient of whatever skin tone you're working with. So since Nate is kind of like a lighter, he's not fair skinned, but he's definitely like a lighter skinned person. I still want to incorporate some of those yellows, those reds, those purples, those greens, and do it in like a very subtle way and make the skin feel more alive. I think the problem is I'm not used to working with pencil sketches, so this black, this very rough pencil texture is something that is new for me to work with, but I know I can. I just got to figure out how to do that, and I'll get there. Oh, maybe that helps right there. Even like bounce light under the arm coming from the side of the body here. I think it'll just take a little bit of testing on my end.
Fem says, one thing I love about COVID is that there are so many more webinars that I normally wouldn't be able to attend since they're in other countries. Stressful to go job hunting though. Gotta look at those bright sides occasionally though.
I couldn't even imagine job hunting right now.
Gosh, yeah.
That's gotta be a nightmare.
I remember when this first happened, you and I had that panic and we were like, maybe I should get a job.
Yeah.
I remember I actually looked at Starbucks of all places again. Because Starbucks probably was my favorite job I ever had, but
I can imagine it being pretty fun.
Right, that was still like the safe time though, where it was just like right at the cusp of everything changing. I couldn't imagine now though, like getting a job at, especially like a big corporation or something like that, where it's like a busy place.
Studio.
Yeah, like that's got to be really hard. Unix says the fish is failure and the radish is success.
Yeah. The fish was definitely my example of failure, and the fish was success. I'm gonna do everything I can to make Nate not one of those failure ones.
Radish was success, right? You consider the radish?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Very much a success. I really liked how that one turned out.
Felix says you should make the shadows more red. There's too much contrast between the skin and the dark lines.
I totally agree.
The shadows under the eyes, eyebrows, and upper lip just look really dark and gray.
That's where I know I'm going to have to paint over the pencil texture, because as much as I like the texture that it also brings a level of gray and like this dark gray hatching that kind of influences the final result of the color. And I'm realizing that I'm not the biggest fan of that. So I think messing with that is going to be something I'll have to learn to do. I am going to overlay though some of this orangey color into the shadows, because I agree with you. Having a warmer shadow usually helps create a more flushy looking skin color. So usually I'll lay it on pretty heavy and then I'll lower the opacity.
But yeah, actually, it's doing the weird color thing too again, where the Mac is showing something, and then my YouTube showing something else, and then your Cintiq
colors are always
showing,
weird because every monitor has a different color profile. So that's why I knew color is always going to be weird. But I don't like it when my Cintiq is so much more duller than what it actually is, because then I think I'm painting like a very subtle color, and then I look at the other monitor, I'm like, oh my god, that's bright as hell.
Yeah, that's weird. We're all caught up though.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Okay. So I think I'm gonna let intuition take over here, because paint by numbers is clearly not the way that I would naturally paint. I should not have started that way, because I know that's so unnatural for me. That's okay. I think it's okay for me to do streams and them not to go 100% perfect how I want them to. Because I think it's good then for you guys to see that, you know, I have to react and I have to think quickly. I have to think kind of on my feet to fix areas. And that is a big part of the process of doing art.
I was gonna say, you definitely have moments where you're scrapping things and starting over, and yeah.
Oh, all the time. That's why I think it's really weird when people do these YouTube videos where they like do demonstrations and how to draw something perfectly. And in my mind, I'm like, either you've drawn that way too many times where you're so comfortable doing it, either you got lucky, or you're just confidently going over something that you might already be pretty familiar with in a way that's comfortable for you. So since I've never drawn under a pencil drawing for a character like this before, I can go into it confident, and I know eventually I'll fix it and figure it out, but I don't know if it's gonna be perfect like right from the get-go. I hope it will be, and I try to go in with that attitude of, you know, let's do this, like I got it. But obviously it doesn't always work out that way.
I'm gonna go get just a little bit more water right now. Do you want me to fill yours up?
No, we only got 10 minutes anyways.
I'll be really quick.
All right. Let's see here. You know what? I'm going to pull some color in because it feels really weird not having any type of color within this. I mean, it's so weird working on this, because there's definitely areas that I really like about it. Like if I was really scrambling right now, I'm going to add some overlay to the pants. Even some multiply to really give it a 3D look. All you have to do is like push it towards the hinge.
Oh.
Slapping the door like it's super angry.
I didn't slam it. It's just hard to push in. So while I was gone, did you finish?
Yeah. Can you imagine? You come back and I'm like, well, I'm done. That was great. I was really able to capture it.
You like 3D animated it, everything. It's just like Nate's walking out of the screen. Those cicadas outside are so loud.
No, I really do like cicadas though.
They make a cool sound.
Mm-hmm.
It's just when they pop out of nowhere at you, they're kind of scary.
I've never had that happen. I like feel bad for you that happened to you because I just don't know why a cicada would jump out at you. Like
we also, growing up, we had outdoor umbrellas, and bats would get up inside of them all the time. So like you'd open the umbrella and the bat would just be fast asleep, hanging on it. And it's so I feel bad sometimes because then they wake up, and since it's daytime, they're like blind then. So they start flying and they're like confused where they're going.
Oh God.
I know, it's kind of scary.
I mean, I have thought about getting a bat nest for our house because someone told me they're like the best natural way to get rid of mosquitoes.
That'd actually be kind of fun.
Right?
Bats are really cool, especially at night. If we laid on the roof, we probably could just sit there and watch them like fly.
Yeah.
All around us, yeah. Jonathan says, as soon as you put that saturated pinkish hue in the arms, it just came back to life. Poor Nate does look like he stepped out of a Scottish pub in the morning after. Just that like gray. I just want to sleep right now.
Which I mean, I guess that does kind of describe Nate pretty well.
Henry says, seeing you experiment and backtrack on certain decisions is cathartic to me. Also, hats off for being so calm about not liking certain parts. I riot and cry.
Well, I mean, the fish stream, I was definitely very disappointed. But like I said, I've grown, even in this short amount of time, of just accepting when things aren't looking right, that's okay. That's part of the process, and adjusting to it is normal. And I think I was trying to do a few things that I normally don't do. I was trying to label all my layers and do things that I never do naturally. So I don't know why I pretended to force it on the stream. Well, actually, I know why, because I wanted to, give a nice PSD, but I'll still organize the files in a way that is the way that's more true to how I actually paint.
I feel like you usually get just really quiet when I know something's not going well with art for you. Yeah, you get really quiet.
Because I want to fix it. It's like this weird, and I'm sure maybe some of you watching have felt this, like you get embarrassed because you're like, I don't want anyone to see this right now because it looks bad, or like I know it could be better. But when you do live streams, it's this extra layer of, I really need to fix this because I don't want people thinking this is like the best I can do. But I don't know if I'm just at a weird place in my life right now where I'm like, you know what? If people see me in the mistake area, or like through when I have to push through like a struggle, for whatever reason, I'm more okay with that now.
What if this has had to be used for your Instagram profile picture?
Like as soon as this was finished?
Yeah, as soon as this is done right now.
I would not. I think we all have limitations. That would be mine.
Have your limit. Yeah, you probably just got quiet because you're thinking about it.
I keep thinking of, well, especially doing art live is so weird because for me, art isn't a methodical standard process of like, now you do this and now you do this. I'm usually very engaged with my art, and especially the making of art. So I'm questioning things constantly. But when I'm doing things live, it does become a little more methodical, But in a lot of ways, it's not true to how I normally work. And I think a lot of artists, when I've talked to them about this, that's not how they work either. But there's this pressure to be perfect the entire time from when a stream begins to when it ends. And I definitely fall into that trap. And I don't know if it's literally just recently, I've been more okay with the idea of, let them see the mistakes, let them see you struggle and how you push through. Because in a lot of ways, it's probably more encouraging to see an artist that you've seen them do, the same level of quality before, but to see them have to push through the struggle of when it's not perfect is probably more encouraging than seeing a perfect render from start to finish the entire stream.
Yeah, I feel like that's a lot of it is just we live in the edited world of YouTube or like movies and TV where everything is just perfect and there's never like failure or things that happen in it. But that is just editing and that's not real life.
And I think we should encourage that when you get into a position of being stuck, and like I'm saying this for myself too, it's, okay, well, what's wrong with it? Like, let's work through it. Let's problem solve right now. Because too often I think if I get too flustered, it's like, it's ruined, and I'll work on something else or I'll take my mind off of it. But then when you stream, you can't like just switch. I probably admittedly won't. Well, I don't know if this will go on YouTube or not. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling. Unless if I like rename it something like how to push through an art struggle.
No, actually, I feel like you're adding in the right things right now.
That's why, like, it's so funny when I was trying to be methodical about it. That's when I was most messing up because it's not natural for me to work that way. But if I do it where I'm just looking at intuition, just making decisions on the go, making new layers, making an overlay layer, change the opacity, that's when I really feel in my zone. So I got to stop pretending like I have a method to the madness,
FM says, yeah, I would always have that feeling in class, and the teacher or classmates would be able to see my work. I automatically started making more mistakes from being nervous.
Yep. So, I mean, in a way, I guess I hope this was helpful in seeing and reacting to things, or maybe trusting your gut more than trying to follow a way of doing things. Because actually now I'm starting to like it more again.
Adelaide says, as a 19-year-old student, what I want to ask is how do we overcome future anxiety for this industry?
How do you overcome future anxiety? So it'll always come up, and I think it's good to understand that it'll always be there on some level. And I always see it as a good thing because then that means the anxiety is built up because you want to do a good job, but maybe you're being pressured under a time constraint, or maybe you read this all the time about AAA game studios having to push their workers to work late to finish, the final touches, and that can be very stressful. I think sometimes it can be unhealthy, and I think the studios overwork their workers, but sometimes I think it's good to get like an extra push to be, you got to be more efficient with your time. Let's go here. Let's do this. And then put the pedal to the metal and see what you're able to create under a time crunch. I've seen a lot of people grow really fast under certain time constraints. But I think that kind of goes hand in hand with that anxiety. Try to use it to your advantage and have it motivate you rather than have it cripple you and not draw at all. So maybe if it just means like taking a short break for a second, like let's say you have a day to finish something and the crunch is on and you're midway through the day. If you're really like just feeling anxiety, go for a break, take a bite of something, whatever you need to do, come back with the attitude of let's go, let's do this, get it done. I honestly think attitude is the biggest thing to change like how fast you work or how effective you work. Because if you go into it like I was earlier, where I was this close up to the drawing and I was kind of just noodling around, yeah, you're not going to be efficient with your time. And I think it's good to have a little bit of that pressure under your butt to move faster. So yeah, hopefully you can see it in a way that is encouraging rather than discouraging. I'm just adding like little gloss touches to end the stream off. Kind of a cheap trick to do at the end to make something look more 3D or more realistic, but
Unix says, but my gut isn't trustworthy. Yeah. I feel you. I got IBS, so my guts run off of that.
Oh God. I mean, if you really feel like you aren't trusting or your intuition's a bad idea, it might be that your foundational skills then on how to paint and how to draw. Actually, I really like that. Oh, actually, I feel like we were able to bring it back a bit here.
This has definitely been saved. Actually, I really like that when you zoom in on the face too. It looks really good.
Well, it feels... What I like about this one, I mean, he's still a very feminine boy for sure. But it feels a little rougher than my old one because my old drawing, he's so like clean. That's the one thing that always bothered me with my old drawing of him is I'm like, Nate's a little more rough around the edges. Where like this kind of depicts more of like someone that's maybe a little high, maybe like walking out of a bar past clothes. And those pencil marks I think really help. I'm going to make the shadows a little more saturated and then I'll end the stream off here. But what was the question? I'm so sorry.
What?
In my yammering, I forgot.
Oh, no, there wasn't a question. You're good. Yeah, Unix just says my gut isn't trustworthy.
Oh, yeah.
And then you were going about...
Because I have such a strong confidence in my fundamentals of understanding color and light and contrast and value, I know I can turn to it when I need to. But when I'm trying to do something in a way that's unfamiliar or unnatural, I think that's what happened in the middle of the stream where I was like, this just looks weird. And then I zoomed out to like here. I started painting how I normally do. And I think I'm liking it more. I still think I need to edit it a little bit, still rough in some areas, but I definitely think this is way more salvageable now that I have a better look at it. Yeah, give me like 5 more minutes and I'll be done with the stream.
Anra says, there's probably a certain amount of responsibility I see with artists drawing in public. You want to live up to the expectations of the people who come to watch you.
Oh, 100%. I mean, thankfully, this has always been such a good group of people that come to these streams that I feel pretty comfortable, admitting when something's not looking right. I don't feel like every single stream has to be 100% perfect. And last week was such a good week. I think I came in this week being like, okay, let's swing for the fences on this one. And yeah, it's fine. Like, I don't think this result is great for the end of a 2-hour live stream, but I think I know I can finish it after the stream's over. And I think it's good for you guys to see what it looks like when an artist struggles and how to get past it. Because I think that's probably the other intimidating thing is we assume that all these artists that are posting on the social medias that we like so much are just creating perfect images every single time they sit down. But now that I've gotten to know a lot of them, that's definitely not the case. And what you see is only a fraction of their process. And, you don't really get to see the struggles along the way either, which I honestly think sometimes that's the more encouraging part, like I said earlier, because then you see that they're human too and they make mistakes and there's a process to creating art. But I think nowadays it's just assumed that every artist that has over 50,000 followers just goes in, creates something beautiful for the day and then posts it and then that's it. Mm-hmm. But we don't get to see the behind the scenes look. Oh, I do like this again. Okay. I'm feeling way better about it.
Oh yeah.
Ooh.
I like the part around the eyes a lot too. Just it definitely looks like tired, a little drugged up probably.
A little drugged up.
Yeah.
Self-inflicted, of course.
So, you're right. Anna actually says it's very sweet. Real life art doesn't have to live up to the romanticized perfectionist standards though. I actually keep coming back to your streams because there's realness to the process.
Oh, that was probably the nicest thing I've heard all week about that. Thank you.
Fem says, I actually put today as the final as a final day for working on my dirt kid so I can render it this night.
Oh, yay. I'll post it then.
I keep fiddling and not daring to call it done due to anxiety of having it not be good enough. Him really helped me fasten up and make decisions, even though I'm still thinking it could be better. Time to go to the next project.
That's great, actually. So, like, in a way, maybe this stream was helpful in that end for you. Sometimes I forget that, yeah, sometimes someone watching the stream could get something way different out of it than maybe what I was intending to get, or like to show out of it.
Actually, Jonathan, in response to Adelaide asking about overcoming future anxiety, said, mountains, honestly, take time to get outside and think things out with your work. Sorry, take time to get outside and think things through out of your work environment. I've got deadlines for the book coming up and I'm taking the time to hike. Actually, that is good. Just really getting outside. Even you've been doing that too, just taking more hikes and getting out and
I guess maybe weirdly that actually helped in the long run, unconscious or subconsciously. I'm like really thankful that we went to Colorado. I mean, despite possibly getting COVID in Colorado.
Well, it gave you, even just being outside, I think it gave you this burst of inspiration too. Like you started drawing the tree people and doing things that were very out of like what you were doing there for a bit. And I think that was good too. Because I mean, if art's a reflection of life, you have to do things in life. Yeah. Phoenix says the question is how to get fundamental knowledge if you don't have the muse to grind through it.
Ooh, that one's tough because I think there is a certain level of grind that you have to do to learn the fundamentals. I really believe it's not something you can skip into like the next stage of art without having first get through that. And honestly, it really doesn't take that much time. And maybe it's something that you can do like a daily thing. Like maybe one day you're like, okay, I'm just going to focus on values. And I'm going to just draw the 4 simple forms that everyone knows and try to like perfect it. And then the next day be like, okay, I'm going to try to do, I'm going to draw a sphere, but I'm going to do a soft edge version. And I'm going to do a no edge. And then I'm going to do a hard edge. You know, like simple little things like this that may not take you more than 20 minutes to a half hour, and then go back into drawing, you know, the fun stuff. But I think at least mixing that and incorporating that into your day may help you get past that grind because, like I said, I really do think it is important to learn those fundamentals, and I don't think you should focus on skipping them per se.
Elena says, gotta say, to me the eyes make it look like he's on some weird drugs to make them glazed over, but still love the way you painted this. It sounds about right for you.
Yeah, I was gonna say, to be honest, that's kind of the look I wanted, so that is the perfect description. Alright, I will end it off, I think, here. I think if I really wanted... Oh, you know what? No, I'll do a quick... If these little metal knuckles that he has on his gloves, each of them have like this metal circle. By showing various degrees of shading the lighting on them, it kind of gives the illusion of metal, because depending on the angle that they're facing the light, they'll be brighter or softer. So having one that's really bright like this one, and then maybe having one that's like middle light, and then these two are a bit darker, kind of give the illusion, actually this one's a little too bright, kind of give the illusion of metal because they're not all the same shade and value. It's a really easy trick to do metal. Okay, I like where this is going. I know I have to edit more of it, but I do like way more than it was a half hour ago. He definitely looks like he's on something, but that's kind of the point. So I guess thank you guys for coming to this live stream and watching me struggle and watching me try to push through it. I still think there needs to be a lot of editing done to it, but if anything that you can come out from the stream, and maybe it's a reminder to myself, is trust your intuition when you're doing art and know that it's not always going to be like a start to finish perfect journey. and that you are going to have areas that you're traversing on that journey that are troublesome or roadblocks that you don't understand how to get over, or like a literal mountain that you're like, well, I either have to walk all the way around this or try to climb it. And sometimes climbing it, you fall like I did today. And that's okay, as long as you can get back up and keep going. So that's all I got. You have any last words, Shua?
I think I'm all good this week.
All right.
Love you all. I guess you're all wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. We'll probably do something more Drawtober related next week. I might either make the calendar or do the logo design. We have a lot planned for October where we actually are teaming up with some new people, and they're really good with like doing little animations and things of that nature. So I'm really excited because it's literally around the corner, and we have more of a theme for this Drawtober, which I've never really embodied the Drawtober event for. So we're very excited to launch it, and Josh has been making music for it. So stay tuned for that, and yeah, hopefully we'll see you next week. All right, thanks everyone.